verse 15. Continuing to verse number 24. And when one of them that sat at meat with him heard these things, he said unto him, Blessed is he that shall eat bread in the kingdom of God. Then said he unto him, A certain man made a great supper, and bade many, and sent his servants at supper time to say to them that were bidden, Come, for all things are now ready. And they all with one consent began to make excuse. The first said unto him, I have bought a piece of ground, and I must needs go and see it. I pray thee, have me excused. And another said, I have bought 5 yoke of oxen, and I go to prove them. I pray thee, have me excused. And another said, I have married a wife, and therefore I cannot come. I guess she must have told him don't go. So that servant came and showed his Lord these things. Then the master of the house, being angry, said to his servant, Go out quickly into the streets and lanes of the city, and bring in hither the poor, and the maimed, and the halt, and the blind. And the servant said, Lord, it is done as thou hast commanded, and yet there is room. And the Lord said unto the servant, Go out into the highways and hedges, and compel them to come in, that my house may be filled. For I say unto you, that none of those men which were bidden shall taste of my supper. So ends the reading of the word of the Lord. Thank you. You may be seated. Verse number 18, and the 8th part of the verse, as I reiterate or read it again. And they all with one consent began to make excuse. Amen. God bless you. Thank you, ushers. And I get you today, if there's somebody in your immediate area, based on what the Bible says, they all began to make excuse. Tell them, neighbor, the preacher is going to talk about it. Get rid of it. Amen. Get rid of it. Our text reveals Jesus' correction of a great misconception. As he sits in this banquet setting, as the meal has been prepared and is being served, Jesus in our text reveals how some people have got it all wrong. some have got it mixed up and messed up. He corrects in their presence a great misconception. You'd have to fully understand what Jews believed about when the Messiah would come, when God's kingdom would come, what it would mean to them and for them as a distinguished people. And so it is, as Jesus talks about that particular day that they were looking forward to, one of the Pharisees gets happy. And in verse number, let's see here, 14 and verse number 15, he says, blessed are those who shall be able to eat bread, to be a part of the great banquet when the Lord establishes his kingdom here on earth. And so Jesus takes advantage of that moment and turns it into a teaching moment so that it would be clear that some of you have a misconception about what will happen on that day. And so it is, what is the misconception? Jesus says, if you will, everybody who thinks they will make it in won't. Lord have mercy. Those who were in the room, those who were at the tables, were operating under the idea and the thought and the belief and the premise that they had an automatic entrance into the banquet of the Lord and the kingdom of the Lord. And Jesus says, I'm getting ready to shake something up right here and let you know that everybody who thinks they will make it in won't make it in. And they're not making it in is not because of me, who is the host of the banquet. But if you don't get in, it'll be because of your own self. I heard the late Reverend Haywood Wiggins sing a song when he preached in revival for us some years ago back on F Street, and the song still lingers among us. He said, if I die and my soul be lost, it ain't nobody's fault but mine. Can remember it like it was yesterday, and it yet lingers with us. And so if Jesus says, you are here at the table, but you are operating under a grave misconception. And that is that everybody who's in the room will end up being able to participate in what is to come. But I got news for you. Everybody who think they're going to make it in won't make it. In verses 16 and 17, I discovered something, amen, Brother Sam. I discovered that these people who had in the parable of Jesus been invited to the banquet. They had RSVP'd, but in verse number 18, it is clear that they reneged and refused to attend. Hold on, you got to read it real close and you'll see it, that Jesus says that the man who is the master, the man who is in charge, the man who is sponsoring it, had his servants to go out and give them invitation. And they accepted the invitation, so he knew how much food to prepare. And then after all of the food got prepared, he sent end of his service, say, now, go tell them everything is ready. Go tell them it's sufficient. Go tell them that, you understand, the table is spread and the feast of the Lord is about to be going on. But here is the problem, is that there is a group of people who have said in 1 minute, I will, but in the next minute they say, I won't. There's one group that says, I shall, but in the next minute they say that I changed my mind. And can I say something to you this morning? Those people are not just in Bible day. There are some that are living in our day, who somehow or another they are fluctuating, they are vacillating, they are up 1 minute, down the next, in 1 minute, out the next, with you 1 minute, ain't with you the next. They are feeling it 1 minute, but ain't feeling it the next. Here they are saying, Lord, thank you for the invitation, and you can count on me. But when the dinner is ready, and he sends them a message, they say, you know what? I think I'm busy this evening. I think I changed my mind. I think my favorite show is coming on about the same time. I think my wife don't want me to come today. I think all of them oxen I just bought, you understand, they waiting on me to prove them. I think the land I just bought, I got to check on it. In other words, I know I told you I was going to do something. But all of a sudden now, they have reneged and they have refused to attend the banquet. And so Jesus shows how a divine invitation can be declined by some and yet responded to by others. It's a divine invitation. In the parable, Jesus is helping them to understand that the Lord gives invitations, and there are some people who act like they're going to show up, but they never show up. There are some people who say, I'm going to show up, but they don't show up. And yet there are others who are the last and the least to get the invitation. And when they get it, they respond in a different way. Let me say something to you, my brothers and sisters. It wasn't just true back then. It's true right now. That the Lord is still giving out invitations. And there are some people who accept the invitation, and then there are some who decline the invitation. And so it is in the text. We see that the Bible says that all of them began to make excuses. They began to use their excuse as a crutch to lean on something to help them to get out of, you understand, doing what they had committed and promised and pledged that they were going to do. And so it is, when you read the text, the Bible says that even in the Bible days, people were excuse makers. They had crutches that they would lean on, and that crutch was simply an excuse, and their excuse was simply a crutch. Listen, my brothers and sisters, in this day and time, unfortunately, people are still professional excuse makers. Matter of fact, you ought to wake your neighbor and say, I hope you ain't one of them. One of them professional excuse makers. People make excuses to keep from going where they ought to go. You know I'm right. People make excuses for the way that they talk, especially when they know they ain't talking right. Help me up. I've heard people talk, and they say the reason why I talk the way I talk is because. But I'm of the opinion that you can choose your words wisely and carefully. And everything that come out of your mouth ain't no slip, because Big Mama said what's in you is sooner or later going to come out. So it is, my brothers and sisters, there are people who make excuses for acting the way that they act, doing the things that they do, living the way that they live. They are people who are excuse makers. People who make excuses for why they eat so much. Well, you know the reason why I eat so much, because you understand, my nerves is bad. The reason why I eat so much because I went to the buffet and I got to be sure I get my money's worth. You understand? That excuses, amen, for almost any and everything. People make excuses not only for how they eat, but also for how they drive. Help me, Lord Jesus. I know y'all don't have to ride with nobody who drive crazy. Drive, you understand, like they ain't got no sense. And drive like a bat out of H-E, crooked leg, amen. But there are people who make excuses for the way that they drive. Honey, I'm late. I'm running behind. I got to try to get there. Well, maybe you should have got up earlier. Got a quicker start or whatever, but we got some excuse. The police pull you over and you've already figured out what you're going to tell him. I told somebody the other day, they asked me, they said, how fast will your car go? I said, I don't know. They said, what do you mean you don't know? I said, I don't know because I ain't never tried to drive it that fast. But I can tell you what it says on the speedometer. And so he said, well, have you ever been pulled over? I said, no, not yet. But let me tell you something, if I do get pulled over, I can't tell the policeman I don't know how fast I was driving. And the reason for that is I got 3 speedometers in my car. One on the windshield and 2 on the dashboard. The only reason I don't know how fast I'm driving is because I'm not paying attention to all of the obvious things that will clearly tell me if I'm below the speed or above the speed. Are y'all hearing me here? But people will use all kind of excuses. Excuses for their lifestyle option. Excuses for doing as little as they can or nothing at all. Don't look around. I know somebody may be tempted to want to look around because you know somebody who is an excuse maker just like this. They got a reason why they are not doing nothing. And they also use a reason for why they do as little as they can. Excuse makers are working in the marketplace. On your job, there's somebody who's always making some kind of excuse. In the home, there are excuse makers. Help me, Lord. Nothing is always just somebody's fault. Everybody probably got a little something to do with it. But in the home, amen, women will say, I would be doing this, but. And yet a man will say, I would be doing that, but. In other words, we come up with some kind of excuse for our not doing what we could be doing or the way we ought to be doing it, not only in the marketplace but also in the home. But it's not just there. The real truth is it's also prevalent and present in the church. People will make up excuses for why they are not doing what they could be doing. I would imagine for all of the empty seats that are in the house today, there are excuses for why I'm not there. About 3 this morning, I heard it ring. Did y'all hear it?
Yes, sir.
About 3 this morning. But I went on back to sleep. About 6 o'clock this morning, I heard it ring. But I went on back to sleep. About 7 o'clock, I said, it's time to get up. And it wasn't raining as hard, it was just drizzling. But at no point in time at the 3 o'clock hour or the 6 o'clock hour or the 7 o'clock hour did I decide I can't go to church today because it's raining. And yet if you ask some people who are not present why you weren't here on the day, their excuse will be, well, you know, when I woke up this morning, it was raining. But I come to tell you, Minister Bill, tomorrow, help me, Lord Jesus, when they got to report to the job, when they got to report to that other place where the eagle flies on Friday, some people who couldn't seemingly get up this morning will get up on Monday morning and Tuesday morning unless you understand it is such a torrential downpour that they just can't get out of the house, and the city has locked things down, shut things down, and said, don't get out and drive at all. They'll be trying to make their way to that other place. But they have an excuse for why they can't come to the Lord's house. Oh, don't y'all get funny with me like that. Y'all know I'm right about it. Somebody got an excuse when they are not faithful in their attendance. Somebody's got an excuse when they're not faithful in their auxiliary. Somebody's got an excuse for why they can't or don't come to Sunday school. Somebody has an excuse for why they don't or can't come to Bible study. Somebody has an excuse for why they don't pay their tithes and give an offering. Believe it or not, my brothers and sisters, we are people who resort to excuses, and our excuses are nothing but a crutch because we are in a crippled condition. Believe it or not, excuses get in the way of our personal, religious, and Christian development. Every time we make an excuse, it keeps us from reaching and performing at our full potential. We rely on excuses when we, amen, could do more. We rely on excuses when we could give more. We rely on excuses when we could pray more. We rely on excuses when we could praise more. We rely on excuses when we could study the Bible more. We rely on excuses when we could participate on the Lord's program more than we've been doing. We rely on excuses when we could help out more than we have been helping. That's not just true in the church, that's true in the home, it's true on the job, it's true in places of education. We use excuses, and excuses keep us from reaching, performing, and developing to the potential that God knows is within us. Listen, my brothers and sisters, you will never become all you can be. And you will never become all God desires as long as excuses are a crutch in your hand. Listen, I want to share with you just 4 things, and then I'm going to turn you loose so we can get ready to get out of here. When I look at the people that make excuses, the first thing I learned is that their excuses were unacceptable. Can you join me right there and say the real truth is some of my excuses are just unacceptable. You know when you come up with it, it's unacceptable. You know when you dream it up, it's unacceptable. You know when you open your mouth and say what you're getting ready to say, that the excuse you are getting ready to use is really an unacceptable excuse. Sometimes we even laugh at our own self, at the kind of lies we come up with. We laugh at our own self, at the kind of stuff we come up with that says why we can't do a certain thing a certain time or in a certain way. Their excuses were unacceptable. And I need to tell you that sometimes even when it seems like it's legitimate, it ain't all that legitimate anyhow. I remember one time my mama whooped me real good, and I think my daddy got a piece of me too, because my sister did something, and when she did it, I hit her real good. Because what I didn't think was she was going to run and tell mama them. But she did run and tell them with them great big old crocodile tears in her eyes. And before you could even say hallelujah, thank you, Jesus, I mean to tell you something was happening on the posterior portion of the man who threw the punch. But the question was raised before they started whooping, and while they was whooping, why did you hit her? That's your sister. Men ain't supposed to hit women. And I said my excuse is because she did something to me first. And they said, well, what she did to you first did not obligate you to do what you did in return. You could have told us about what she did and we would have handled it for you. But because you took matters in your own hand, then you got to pay the piper. You got to pay the consequences. And so it is. I thought my excuse would be acceptable, only to discover that in their eyes it was unacceptable. And so my brothers and sisters, we learn from them that even when what you say sounds like it is a good reason, the real truth is with the master it is an unacceptable excuse. Not only that, but their excuses were unbecoming. Sometimes when you realize who you are, the excuse you come up with doesn't match who you are. These people that Jesus was using as an example were people who were religious leaders. Not only were they religious leaders, they were people who thought they had good religion. And so it is, as religious leaders with good religion, the mere fact that they would renege and refuse to honor what they promised, to honor what they pledged, to honor what they said they were going to do, to honor, amen, being what they said they were going to be, it was unbecoming. We got to be careful as we move through life that we don't allow ourselves to pick up habits and traits that are unbecoming of those who are religious and those who are supposed to be leaders setting a good example. And so it is, as a leader, they should have been there setting the example for somebody else. Every person who is a leader in the church of God ought to make sure that your excuses are not unbecoming of you. And that the things that you are failing to do not signal, amen, an unrighteousness and an unwillingness and on your part, but it was unbecoming of them. A child of God ought to look like a child of God. A child of God ought to act like a child of God. A child of God ought to worship like a child of God. A child of God ought to study like a child of God. A child of God ought to give like a child of God. You got to be sure that your excuses for not doing what you said you were going to do for the Lord are not unbecoming, but what you do measures up to who you say you are. I'm not through here because there is another thing we learn about that excuse making, and that is their absence made the master angry. It's right there in your Bible. As Jesus tells the parable, he said that the man in charge of the banquet becomes angry because those who said I was going to do something are not doing anything at all. He got angry because every one of them who RSVP'd, who came down the aisle and gave the preacher their hand and gave God their heart, came one Sunday, 2 Sundays, but didn't come back no more. They RSVP'd when they say, I want to join the church, when I want to be baptized, when they said, I want to serve in a certain auxiliary. They RSVP'd and said, Lord, you can count on me. But when the time came, they couldn't be counted on. And the master got angry. Have I got a witness here? I need to tell you something. When your stuff takes more priority than the Lord's stuff, you need to know that the Lord can sure get angry. One man said, I'm a businessman and I gotta take care of my business, but Jesus said, you got some business with me also. Don't let your worldly business become so important that you ain't got time for the Lord's business. I know you gotta work, I know you gotta eat, I know you got bills to pay, but while you are dealing with your business, don't forget you got some other business with me also. Have I got a witness here? He became angry because one man put his business above the Lord. Can I tell you something? You can't take money to the grave. You can work hard to get all you can, but when you die, not $1, not 1 penny, not 1 nickel, not 1 dime will follow you to the grave. If they take your money out of the bank and put it in the casket with you, after the people have shed their last tear, after the morticians have gone on back to the place, the grave diggers who put the grave hole in the ground will go in there and get that money. Have I got a witness here? Ask your neighbor, when was the last time you saw a U-Haul behind the hearse? Have I got a witness here? The Bible says, naked I came into the world, and naked I shall leave out of here. I didn't bring anything in, I can't take nothing out. Don't forget the Lord while you're trying to make your money. The Bible said he became angry because one man put his, Lord have mercy, his riches above the Lord. He thought he was somebody. He put his possessions before the Lord. He thought he was somebody. He put his stuff before the Lord. Have I got a witness here? I think he was trying to brag a little bit. He didn't say, I bought me 1 ox. He didn't say 2 ox, 3 ox, but I bought 5 yoke of oxen, and that's more than 5 oxen, because a yoke of oxen is more than just one animal. But here's what he said, I got my bling bling, help me Lord Jesus, I got stuff going on, I'm dressed to the kill, I'm driving my favorite car. Well, I got a witness here, I got all of this stuff I got to check on, but while you're checking on your stuff, you better remember this, that the Lord is waiting on you. The Lord is looking for you. The Lord ain't got no problem with you having stuff. He just wants that the stuff don't have you. and say, neighbor, have some stuff, but don't let the stuff end up having you to where you put God on the hold because you're trying to get some most of somebody right here trying to get most of. You got more clothes in the closet than you can wear, but you're still trying to get most of. You got more shoes than you'll ever wear in a week's time, but you're out there every week trying to get some most of. You got to realize that there is a time when stuff has got to take a back seat because the Savior is more important to me. Is there anybody here that love my Jesus? I'm trying to find somebody who says I love the Lord, and I love Him more than stuff I can buy. Have I got a witness here? You can buy a house, but it might be a home. Oh Lord, you can buy a new bed and the best mattress and not be able to sleep at night. Am I right about it here? You can buy you a big gun, 44 Magnum. Have I got a witness here? That's a mighty big gun, but it don't mean you got full protection, because if the Lord don't keep you, the enemy can come in like a flood. Oh yes, some people are more concerned about stuff than they are about their salvation. Yes, Lord, I'm getting ready to leave you here, but there's one more thing I learned about those who made excuses. If there is someone to take your place, the Bible said that the men that He had invited who reneged on Him, the men He had invited that refused to come like they said they was going to come, the Lord said, wait just a minute here. If you don't want to do it, somebody will. He told the servant, go into the highways, go into the hedges, and compel men, compel the Gentiles, compel those who the Jews think can't get in anyhow. I said, come in to my banquet, because the table is spread and the feast of the Lord is going on, while some men didn't take advantage of the privilege they had. Some other men said, I will take advantage of this privilege to be in the Lord's presence. Is there anybody here who realizes it is a privilege to be in the Lord's presence? Have I got somebody who say, thank you, Lord, I'm in the number. One more time, I could be dead, sleeping in my grave, but thank you, Lord, you make death behave. I'm in your presence one more time. Thank you, Lord. I'm grateful for the privilege to come where you are, to be a part of what you got going on. I wish I had two people who didn't mind. Tell your neighbor, it's a privilege to be on the Lord's program. Whatever I do, whatever I serve, it's a privilege, because the Lord didn't have to invite me, because the Lord didn't have to save me, because the Lord don't have to use me. Is there anybody here that love my Jesus? If you love the Lord, say yes, say yes. I'll tell the Lord, Lord, I'm grateful, Lord, I'm grateful. Say, neighbor, if it had not been for the Lord on my side, if it had not been for the Lord on my side, thank the Lord, all right. Where would I be if the Lord had blessed you? Say amen. If the Lord has helped you, say amen. If the Lord has delivered you, say amen. Let the church say amen. Because the Lord, I said the Lord, Alpha and Omega, beginning and end, first and last, the Almighty God. He saved me, He blessed me, He holds me, He's keeping me, He's using me. Ain't the Lord all right? Ain't the Lord all right? Say yeah! Oh, yeah! Oh, yeah! I know He's all right. Get rid of your excuse. Get rid of your crutch. Get rid of anything that's keeping you from serving the Lord. Because if you get rid of it, He will reward you. He will take care of you. He will